welcome everyone. I'm here with Mr. Petri Lounaskorpi. Mr. Petri is a Finnish pedagogical expert and researcher. From being a primary school teacher to an educational consultant and advisor to the Finnish Board of Education, he has worked in the Finnish education system since the 1980s. One of the key expertise of Mr. Petri is teacher training. He has been training teachers in the usage of ICT since the 1990s. Mr. Petri has also been consulting with a wide number of Finnish and international organizations in the design of their learning, information, and performance system. He's also worked as an advisor of the UNESCO and the European Commission. We're excited to speak to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for asking. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. So let's get started. I know that you are from Finland, and whenever we hear the word Finland, everybody talks about it has one of the best education systems in the world. So when it comes to the Finland education system, we often read about the importance given to the teachers, the role, the independence given to the schools, the emphasis given to the resource time, and so on. But we seldom hear about like the role of school leaders and how they have improved the student learning. So I would really like to understand, like, how does the Finnish education system perceive school leadership, and what is the role of a school leader in making Finland's education system one of the most successful?
This is very good question, and as you said it's always is talking about the teachers' competencies and their skills. The first thing is that in Finland every headmaster is a teacher, so he or she has a teacher's training, and they also have to have quite long teaching experience in the school. So before you become a headmaster, you have to have this background. So you need to understand the working infrastructure what you are working with. The second thing is that on side of teacher training, high quality teacher training, we have also high quality headmaster training. So before you can become a headmaster, you have to have a headmaster's certificate, which is a university degree. So you have to take the courses and know about the law and also the development of curricula and so on. The training is about two years. So you, when you are a teacher, you can take this kind of on-site training. So it's voluntary for everybody. So everybody can become trained as a headmaster. But you need to take these courses, and after you have got the certificate, you can then apply a headmaster's job. And when you got the job as a headmaster, you will be member of the local headmaster group, which will have their own in-service training system. So the key word is that if you want to change the school, the headmaster has to have the change first, and then he or she can implement these things into their own school. So we have very strong headmaster in-service training system, and they are very involved in our system. You know that in Finland we have this national curricula comes from the Ministry of Education, but it only gives you framework, and then we locally create our own curricula depending on the situation and areas and other things, and then out of that, in every community, every school creates their own curricular execution plan, and that is the headmaster's responsibility. On the other hand, the headmaster is also responsible of the teacher's in-service training in his or her school. So they have very strong role in the whole system. But as said, the headmaster is the key of every change and the headmasters need to be trained, because they need to be trained similarly than the teachers, because they need to understand what the new skills and competencies, what the teachers might have. They also need to learn by heart these things. So our headmasters get similar kind of pedagogical training or strategical training. On the other hand, they also need to be the leaders of the change, and the change process has to have a long strategical point, because the strategy is the key element. You have to think about who is going to do and with what funds and resources, and that is the tricky part of these things. We still live in a very, low budget times also here, so it's a very complicated puzzle what the headmasters are doing with the competencies and giving the resources for training.
You told about this peer training system and also the community of school leaders, right? Like they are part of a community, like
yes, definitely, yes, and for example, they have actually three different mandatory things. So the learning and taking these courses is mandatory for this area. For example, this town, all the headmasters will meet at least once a week. So, and they have administrational meetings, but they also have this kind of trainings. And they have these trainings because they need to agree all together what kind of new things they want to implement in the education system here. So it's their decision, and if they decide to implement something, they also decide how it can be implemented. So what kind of resources each school will then give, how many teachers they will train, and what kind of teachers they will have, and what kind of happenings they will have. And the big thing is that they also agree about how these new things will be shared with the parents and the society. So what kind of trainings for the parents are there, what kind of meetings for the parents, and what kind of outside experts, for example, they will decide to ask to explain these things and give the, for example, research backgrounds about it and things like that. So yes, they are working a lot of together, and it's mandatory.
So thank you for sharing that. So maybe I'll switch to the next question. So it's more about the teacher training. You've been training for like more than 30 years. So you have a lot of experience in training teachers across the country, especially in the e-learning and ICT space in the education. How do you handle situations where adults, especially the boomers or someone who's like not very comfortable with technology, like they exhibit this kind of fear, or I would say the inertia towards technology or towards adopting technology?
I think and in my experience, the most important thing is to find the big benefit for the usage of the new technology, and it has to be explained everybody differently. So this is one thing what is also very common in the Finnish system, is that if you want to implement something new or some new technology or some new pedagogy or other things, you need to have this kind of, we call it five ways information. So you have to give the same story 5 different stories on the beneficial side. So if you want to, for example, implement a new administrational tool in school, which involves parents and teachers and students and administration and headmasters. So you need to have different story for every user group. So what is the benefit for the parents about this usage? What is the benefit for teachers? Why to use it? What is the benefit for students? What is the benefit for headmasters that he or she can see everything? And what is the benefit for administration? What are the savings, for example? What can be done with this when you don't have to print everything out, or you don't have to make phone calls or whatever it can be? So you have to find this kind of beneficial ways to explain. That is one thing. The second thing is the training. So if you implement something, you have to train all the users. So you can't just say that, okay, now we take this new equipment in use and you start using it. It's like I always use this helicopter phrase or metaphor for it, because when somebody comes to the school, for example, and explains to the headmaster or administration that helicopter is the best way to teach geography, the nature, the biology, and other things, and the administration is sold. Okay, we buy one helicopter, and then when the helicopter is in the parking lot of the school and the headmaster says, okay, now we have a helicopter, start using it, the teachers start to think, okay, from our point of view, who can fly with the helicopter? Okay, if I'm going to fly, how many years it takes for me to learn how to fly the helicopter so safely that I can take the children with me? Who is going to pay for it, for my training? Where is the time for my training? And the most important thing, how does the curricula say, if I take the helicopter and use it and the curricula doesn't say anything about it, am I breaking the law if I use the helicopter? Okay, from the parents' point of view, the first thing is that, okay, when I was in the school, there was no helicopters.
Yeah.
Secondly, what is the benefit? Where is the time? How much time we will lose from the traditional way if they take the helicopter rides around the school and don't listen teachers teaching or don't read the things and so on. So you need to make these explanations for everybody's benefit in this stage. So there are plenty of these kind of things what need to be taken in care. And this, coming back to your question, is the adult question, is that they also need to be explained that the world has changed. Open your eyes. When we made the big change in beginning of 90s in our education system, and we have this kind of open school where everybody can come and follow the teaching whenever they like. We got plenty of visitors to see how the new school looks like. And guess what? The biggest opponents wasn't the parents. They were the grandparents, because they had time to come to school. And every time somebody came and okay, we offered them coffee and had the discussions with them, and every time somebody says that when I was in the school, somebody said, oh, do you really remember how many decades it was? Because the world has changed, and then we asked, do you have your mobile phone in your pocket? So how many years you have had it? And that kind of thing. So there are plenty of these kind of things what you need to take in care. And when you start adapting these things and taking them to adults, there are three main rules. The first one is that whatever you are whatever you are implementing or training, everything has to be done for real. So there has to be some instant benefit for the learner. Whatever it is, there has to be something what they can take away and train that at home or use it in something. Secondly, you have to keep it as simple as possible. So the KISS method, keep it short and simple. And the third big thing is that you have to do it with the for the weakest person in the group. So that's very sensitive. You have to first little bit look around who doesn't have these skills in the high levels, and then start to talk with him or her, because that is the way that everybody gets the information. Nobody is left behind.
Thank you so much for sharing those 3 points. That was really useful. I think,
of course.
I think one thing you said, which definitely worked for me to train them, is like, just keep it simple, break down as much as possible. Like, you cannot assume when you say that close the browser, even that has to be like broken down.
And with that the most important thing is that you have the instructions in the traditional way. So written way, as you said, if there is this shut down the browser in the right corner, that has to be written down, and it can be this kind of ladder. First do this, and then and do it as a list of things. And today, because everything can be recorded so easily, you can easily do short training videos which only have one thing in them, so one step at the time. So you have to think it very short and simple and with the weakest person. So then you have the right way to train and serve everybody.
Thank you so much for joining with us, Mr. Petri. It was very useful and very informative. Thank you so much for doing this again. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye. Have a great day.
Thank you.